Today's podcast was made possible by the Holistic Cultural and Education Wellness Center, a program of the Fresno County Department of Behavioral Health, operated by the Fresno Center and funded via the Mental Health Services Act. The Holistic Center provides wellness activities such as gardening, Zumba, support groups, cross-cultural learning, yoga, and candid conversations to help individuals and families lead a well-balanced life, mind, body, and spirit. We'll hope you find today's presentation useful for your mental health and wellness.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Ninfa Gordoa, and I also work with Devoya. I'm one of the cultural brokers, as well as the yoga and meditation instructor at the Holistic Center. And COVID had taught me so much, not only to be courageous to teach through a camera, which I never done before, but the importance of life in general, relationship, connecting with community, taking care of ourselves, and like someone said at the beginning as well, slow down and appreciate what we have and not cry about what we don't have. Thank you.
Thank you, Nita. Elena?
Hi, I'm Elena. Let's see. I think the biggest lesson that COVID has taught me is that we are all interconnected in so many ways. Like we know this, but now we can really see how that plays out, both in negative and positive ways, and that my decision really can affect my neighbors and vice versa. So it's really taught me to honor those connections more. Thanks.
Thank you, Elena. And I've asked Elena to join us today. She's an acupuncturist as well as complementary healer in different modalities. And she'll be taking notes so that we can further explore various ways that we can address folks that have been through this. So thank you for being here, Elena. Raquel, posing as Ana Maria this afternoon. Would you like to introduce yourself? And Ana, would you mind translating? Gracias.
Ajá.
Nombre es Raquel Tapetillo, Anaya. So I'm child care provider in the Holistic Center. I work on Devoya and me, Ana Maria. And I don't speak English, pero I'm so sorry.
He doesn't need translation.
Clearly speaking English right now. We're so proud of you.
Mi experiencia es, no he tenido mi familia, gracias a Dios, nadie se ha enfermado de mi familia, pero nos hemos cuidado mucho, mis hijos y mi esposo, pero sí he tenido personas que han tenido esa enfermedad y estamos apoyándolos con muchas frases de motivación, de actitud positiva, y eso estamos haciendo también en nuestro trabajo con nuestros clientes, dándoles apoyo emocional, tratando de darles actitudes positivas y mensajes positivos, y eso es lo que estamos realizando, lo que yo estoy haciendo en mi trabajo y con mi familia y con mis amigos y con todo. Thank you.
Gracias, Raquel. She mentioned that nobody in her family was infected by the virus, but she met some of her closer friends that were dealing with the disease, unfortunately. But her strategy was to support family members and the community, friends and clients, with motivational phrases and with emotional support to overcome the situation. Thank you, Raquel. Gracias.
Yes, gracias, amiga. Ana?
Thank you. My name is Ana Maria Cuellar. I'm a cultural broker at the Holistic Center. And COVID helped me to increase my empathy for families and individuals who have dealt with the disease. COVID also helped me to appreciate simple things in life. And unfortunately, that was the most sad part for me. I was in shock that a serious health crisis become a political issue in this country. And for me, it's very embarrassing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ana. Ms. Dia?
Hi, everyone. My name is Via Yang, and I'm also a coach broker at the Holistic Center. What COVID taught me the past year is the importance of relationship and checking in with family members and friends, because each and every one of us were struggling. But it's great to check in to see how everybody's doing for your own wellness and your loved one's wellness, and to really appreciate the little things in life that you took for granted.
Thank you, Dia. And Bree.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Bree Yamaoka. I'm a friend of Devoya's. I would say something that I am starting to learn now is that simply staying home is not restful. And it's important for me to be intentional with how I rest. Playing on a phone or watching Netflix, like junk food for your brain, is fun sometimes, but after a while, every day sort of feels the same. And if we don't use our creative brain, if we don't use some of those other parts of us, that's how we get stuck. And doing something, exercise, reading, whatever it is, and then being able to share those things with the people that even if you don't think they're interested in. I've been so surprised at the people I've been able to connect with over things that I never thought we'd talk about in a million years. And so sharing little snippets with people, work calls, or even my neighbors. I never knew my neighbors before this. We lived here for almost 10 years, and other than waving at them, sharing little details about things that are happening is we really are all in this together. And sometimes we are so stuck in our own heads that we don't think to share those things.
Thank you so much for saying that. And I have to just thank all of you for being here. And Bree is absolutely correct. She just recently mailed me 3 zines on mental health. We've been friends for a while. I didn't even know that we have that in common. And so I do think there are things that we can expand upon that we've learned during this. And today's workshop is just an example of that. And so now I would love to introduce Manny Carr and have him discuss the process of healing, as well as any other details that he would like to share about this journey. And then collectively, cultural brokers, as well as community folks that are involved in complementary healing. That was me. Sorry about that, y'all. So that we can all help as a community, our colleagues and friends and loved ones get better. So welcome, Manny. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for the invitation. I want to expand on what Bree had mentioned. Myself being trapped in the house. I'm attached to oxygen right now, so I'm limited what I can do or how far I can go. I have portable oxygen, but it's just it can be a hassle. But getting stuck on the couch, every day I try and force myself to do something that's important, whether it be reading a book, writing. Ever since I first got COVID, I have a notebook and I write down everything that's important to me, whether it be good or bad. I think that was an important step in helping me heal, or in helping me heal, as well as, I'm big into music, as is Devoya and Josh. So to be able to sit down and play music has really been something that if I'm feeling down, it helps pick me up, but it's also something creative outside of like you said, watching TV or playing on your phone, and it's something to me that, again, helps to get through a rough day. And there's been a lot of them. I think to say one thing that about COVID is that it helped me get a new appreciation for life. You find the things that used to mean something that was important to you aren't that important anymore as well. And now there are other things that should have been more important in your life that have elevated themselves and come to fruition. I think that has been one of the main things I've learned, as well as friendships, people who you never expected to talk to you or brighten your day or anything, coming out of the woodwork and just really, that has been the most helpful thing, I think, in the healing process. Just to have the well wishes, and you don't realize the people you affect, whether you might have met them a few times or not, how much the effect you had on them until something like this happens. And there was a lot of people like that, and it was such a good feeling on, to receive a message or to hear someone's voice, and just, it's amazing how much that helps when it's just you by yourself. The hardest part about COVID, I think, is loneliness. We can all contract it, and that's good. But until you feel that loneliness, it's it can be quite a challenge. I think for me personally, after the first night there in the hospital, when I realized that I wasn't in any jeopardy, so to speak, of getting worse or dying, that's what set in the most. You don't talk to people. You have a phone. That's your only outside connection with people, or connection with people on the outside. Talking to my parents, talking to friends, that helped out a lot. But for most, I'd say for 23 and a half hours of the day, you're by yourself. And the difference between, I think, I'll start off with a little background. So I have diabetes, and I was very careful with everything that kind of around me before I got this. I work up in the mountains, and I went through the whole season. We'd get tested every Wednesday, and then I'd come to work. A month after my season ended up there, I got COVID, and I did everything right, and I still got it. Well, one thing I really learned is that, you can only trust yourself with how people are really dealing with the situation. You can't rely on other people to say, oh, I'm 100% healthy. I'm doing this, and this. That's fine, but it's on you to take care of your own self. And I did, but I still got it. And I wanted people to know that. So I made sure that when I was in the hospital, I put the stories out on Instagram, because what you hear on the news and what you see in the hospital are two completely different things. And to me, it's important for people to understand that whole concept. You see these nurses and doctors, caring for people they don't even know, and giving 100%, and just, it's overwhelming. And there's not enough words I could, first of all, say to thank them for the kindness and careness they gave me while I was there. But then you see the other patients, and you realize we're kind of like a brotherhood now of people going through. And the initial thought is, what's going to happen? What's happening to me? And you see it in people's eyes. When I was in the emergency room, I'm looking across an emergency room, and you're seeing, like, all of us probably had that same look in our eyes. Just, what's going on? What's going to happen? And we all kind of, I think, understood each other. At least I felt that way, and now that I'm sorry, what? Now that I'm out of that situation, it's like, and I got home, you find you're able to reflect on it a little bit more. And I realized that while I was in the hospital, some of the things I was feeling, I said loneliness, you kind of feel frustration, you feel trapped. I think my leash was a 3-foot tube. So the only thing that I could really do were stand up next to the bed, sit up, go to my portable potty, and that was it. for 2 weeks, that was my life. And you get to learn a lot about yourself. You get to learn, there's times when I was going to break, where I'd cry a lot. There was a lot of crying. There was a lot of, anger, a lot of animosity within me. But then there's also a lot of time to reflect. I had so much time to where I could think about the things that meant the most to me. And it gave me a different perspective of life in terms of what I want to do to make my life better. How can I make other people's lives better? They all reached out to me. So how am I able to continue that along and so to pay it forward, so to speak, Right. Because it's important, the people that gave their time to make sure that I'm still here, I need to make sure that I do that for my friends as well as my family. I'm blessed to have that gentleman up on the top row him and my mom have been like amazing in terms of support, doing whatever they can to make this challenge a little bit easier. And I'm sure it's been difficult on them because, if those are the only people you see or the few people you see, there's times where, I unleash my anger on them because of frustration. And it's not out of any reason but the fact that, I can't do anything. And it's just, I guess, a little tension release. And, and then you have to apologize. But those are some of the things you deal with. But,
Can I stop you there for a moment, Manny?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we just back up a little bit? You mentioned your mom.
Yeah.
And you mentioned when we were discussing this, you mentioned a device that I'm not familiar with. And I think people would, I think they benefit from knowing how life-saving that device is. I believe that's the term that you use. So would you mind backing up just a bit and explaining that day that you eventually called and what helped to spur that, if you don't mind?
Absolutely. So December 19th, it was a Saturday, and I decided to go get a COVID test. And that was the first real day where I could feel myself struggling with breathing. And it was hard. I remember walking to the car. My dad picked me up. We were driving to Madera to go get a COVID test. And just walking to the car, I was out of breath. So we took the test. We came back home. And as I was walking back to the house, I was super out of breath. So my dad went home and my mom gave him, I think it's called an oximeter. It's the little machine you put on your finger, and it tells you your oxygen level as well as your heart rate. And my mom, God bless her for making sure I did this, made sure that I would take my readings. So fast forward to the next day, Sunday, and I hadn't slept. The illness kept me up all night. And Sunday, I was out of breath all the time. I was take a shower, I'd feel better. And I still wasn't using the machine, but I was out of breath. So I ended up by about 7:00 at night. I remember it very vividly. I'm sitting there watching Sunday Night Football, and I start feeling bad. My cousin calls me, and I'm talking to him about it, and he I got to take a shower, man. I haven't stopped shivering for almost 4 hours. So I take a shower. While in the shower, I'm literally like almost about to pass out, and it took me almost an hour from getting out of the shower to getting dressed and get everything back to normal. And I call him back, and halfway through the call, I put I think it's called the oximeter on my finger, and my oxygen was at 35%. And so I at that point, I told him, he was the first person that knew. I got to hang up. I got to call an ambulance. And from that point on, it was 7:40 something. By 7:50, the ambulance was at my house. And that was one of the biggest lifesavers, I think, because they came in. I had planned for them, so I had the door. It would take me literally probably 15 to 20 minutes to get from the kitchen to my front door. So I'd made it a purpose to unlock the door turn off the alarm, just so when they knocked on the door, I could just say, open the door and come in. And I wasn't expecting them that fast, but that oximeter saved my life because it made me call to 911 to make and realize that it was much serious. So when they came, they had their better machine and they put that on, and at that time it went down to 30%. So they put me on like a high flow oxygen and took me to the hospital. But I recommend that everyone get that little machine, because like me, I thought the Friday before all this happened, it was curbside pickup at our house. So I'm like, it's just, I'm rustling up dust in the garage. That's all it is. My throat's a little sore. I'm coughing, and it's just from putting everything on the curb. No way. It was something completely more serious. And if I wouldn't have done that, like I said, I think when I got to the hospital, the doctor said I was an hour to 2 hours away from dying if I wouldn't have taken those measures. But yeah, it was, that's definitely a lifesaver. And for $20, if you can save your life, that's, why not? Why not invest that money in that? Especially now, you could get a cough and it doesn't hurt anything to put it on your hand. Thank you for reminding me, Devoya. And that was an important thing. And I think the other important thing, which is to, when the time is right, to get out and exercise. And my dad's been really good about helping me do that every day. Go for little walks. I have a stationary bike that I ride just to build up the endurance. I can hear me talk sometimes. I can feel, sometimes it's hard to continuously talk, but in the beginning, you could talk and then I'd be out of breath, and it can be frustrating, and that had a lot to do. I mean, the thoughts that went through my mind, I think, were mostly, am I going to get better? By trade, I'm a chef. And, so for me, I cannot, as long as I'm attached to oxygen, I can't cook. I can't be around open flames. But so that took away one of my passions of what I love to do every day, what I do as a profession. So that's been difficult. And that was a question that I have almost every day. When am I going to be able to do that again? When am I going to be able to do things I love? And that's one of the I think that's one of the other biggest challenges for me, is not to get down on myself, not to be too hard on myself. My dad, he gets on my case because I'll go for a walk and I'm out of breath, and I'll tell him, well, yesterday I made it farther, and today I can't make it that far. And my doctor has been telling me it comes in phases. So 1 week you're going to be really good. You're stoked about the progress you're doing, and then the next week I could just stand up and be out of breath, and and you don't know. And I think the fact that there's no real diagnosis or length for recovery is a big mental challenge, because none of us know what's going on. I just hope that the data that they collected for me in the hospital is helping the next patient, especially those that have diabetes, and especially those that had, the lungs that were as bad as mine were. I mean, that's all I can hope for, but I try and stay diligent in terms of reading about things and ask my doctor. I suffered a little bit from, and this was one of the biggest challenges for me was COVID fog, to where I could
us through that a little bit, because as cultural brokers, we do know a little bit, just a small bit of information about COVID fog. And we use the term loosely because we're all having memory issues with working from home and doing the job that we do. Can you walk us through how different that is for you now, that you've had the diagnosis, you're home, as well as, would you mind walking through your stay at the hospital, if that doesn't
for sure.
If you don't mind walking us through that as well?
Not at all, not at all. So COVID fog is, for me, the doctor said what it is it's where your brain becomes cloudy, and if you want to do actions. So let's say I want to go get a glass of water. When I originally, before I even went to the hospital, the 2 days before, I realized that it was such a hassle for me to be able to get something from the kitchen, from the family room. I would think it, but for my legs to move and get up and go, it would take anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour for that to happen. I didn't know what it was. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Well, in the hospital, this was worse. I remember having to use the bathroom, and I sat there for 2 hours trying to go a foot to my porta potty and not being able to do it. Part of the reason, obviously, was the perception that I'm about to use a porta potty and I don't want to. But a majority of it was convincing my legs to stand up, turn around, and sit down. A simple motion as that. So when I got out of the hospital, I told my doctor about that, and that's when he told me, well, it's COVID fog. And other people he said it was a form of brain damage, which as a doctor, I didn't really, that wasn't really the most comforting thing to hear. It freaked me out, and because it's with physical therapy, you can come back to almost being normal. So, but the initial shock was very overwhelming. Like, am I going to be like this forever? What about if I take my metformin? I remember getting in a massive argument with my parents about this. Metformin's for diabetes, and it helps you release the sugar really fast, which means you have to go to the bathroom. And obviously, with COVID fog, it's really difficult. You have to race to the bathroom. So, I remember getting in a big argument over that. Like, well, I'm not going to take this because I don't want to have an accident on my way to the bathroom. I don't want when I'm sleeping on the couch to have an accident on the couch. I had already dealt with this when I first got diagnosed with diabetes, so that was embedded in my brain. Needless to say, we got over that, but the fog is repairable. Like, I'm pretty much back to normal. When I'm bad with the breathing and the fatigue is when it really comes back, but it's not as bad as it ever was. And when the doctor said other people have it, that kind of put me at ease. When I hear other people are suffering from these symptoms, it really kind of lowers my anxiety a lot, because at least I know I'm not alone in this part of the recovery process. When he says everyone goes through their phases, and I read an article the other day online that talks about a marathon runner who's still suffering from it, a year in, and it's so there's I hate to say it, it's nice to hear other people's stories, because it proves that there's hope for me, that number one, other people are getting better, but number two, I also realize that it might take a year before I feel completely normal. It might take, 6 months. I don't know. We're all different. My neighbor went into the hospital and he got kidney failure from this. So it's like it affects each one of us differently. Some people may have just got, a cough or lack of taste, lack of smell, and that's it. But then I read this article, and the article also says that some of the people with the minor symptoms are suffering the most. And to me, it's interesting, it's scary, but it also gives hope that, like, if I keep following through and I keep reading about it, at least I'm not beating myself up over why I'm not improving, and that's, you doubt yourself sometimes on that. You doubt yourself on, well, I'm doing everything right. I'm eating healthy. I'm exercising as much as I can before I become fatigued, or I don't want to overwork myself, and nothing's happening. So when you read other stories, the other stories are really important, because they give, at least for me, they give me satisfaction in knowing that people are working through it too, and I can hear their stories, and that helps me to not get so angry with myself. And that's, I think now it's more anger than anything else that I deal with on a daily basis. The anger of not seeing my friends. The other day I went to the market. You know how nice it was to have human interaction, a change of scenery of just, I love my house, but I can only appreciate it so much because to me right now, it's a dungeon, it's a jail. So to be able to go and go into a supermarket and just, get the things I want and see other people it brightens up your day.
Right.
And sometimes that's all you really need to feel better. And that's, for me, I try and find things that make me feel better every day, because if I don't, then the anxiety, the frustration, the anger is just going to eat me up. And that deters from your recovery. That makes things longer and make things more painful. You become more combative with those that are trying to help you.
Right.
And I think that's if you don't realize that, that's one thing that I think patients have to realize. It took me a minute to get there, but I'm happy that I have realized that. And, like I said, if I can eliminate the bad days, and when you have them, you just let them go. You roll with the bad day, because if you hold it in, the next day is going to be worse.
Right.
And so just unload, whether it's crying, whether it's being frustrated and angry, get it out, because you'll feel 10 times better if you don't. This is all out of our hands.
Right.
There's nothing I can say or do that's gonna change my situation. That's gonna get this off right now. I just have to be able to understand, deal with it, and move on. So being able to have vices like music, or I've been able to be without oxygen and cook an egg for myself. That was one of the greatest feelings I had, to just sit there and cook my own egg. A simple little thing like that. But to start off my day that way and then feel so much better. I mean, man, that was one of the happiest days of my life. To sometime, I don't know. In terms of the hospital experience, it was a pretty amazing experience. I was blessed to have some amazing nurses that, were kind enough to take care of me. And I always made it a point to say thank you. I hope you're having a good day. Every time they come into my room, it was my job when I was there, was to stay as positive as I can, because they're doing work for me and they don't have to. They could quit, like a lot of nurses have been lately. They could walk away from this because of all the stress that they're going through. So when they come into my room, how's it going? How's it going? How many patients do you have? What's going on? Just try and eliminate, and they always saying thank you, always being smiling, or even if I'm having a crappy day, they're walking into my room. I want to make sure when they leave, they feel good about it, because they have to go to anywhere from 4 to 13 patients. And for me, that was my job, just to put on a positive face and be there. And some of the nurses I would talk to, and, I heard stories that were just heartbreaking. I remember, this was probably a weekend, and I was having I think this was the first real breakdown I had in the hospital, where I'd been there for a week. I hadn't been able to shower. I hadn't, I felt dirty. I felt, just everything was bad. And this nurse's assistant came in, and she saw I was a little frustrated. And so she, well, what's wrong? I feel dirty. I feel, I can smell myself. And my parent, I had the wipes, I had everything every day. I'd brush my teeth, all the things, but that still doesn't, I'm wearing the same gown I've worn since I got here. So, they came in, and she came back and gave me a bath. And while she was giving me a bath, she was telling me a story. She goes, I work here because my mom is on the top floor and she's incubated right now. So for me, I work here and then I go upstairs and I be with my mom. She's the only one I have. It was such a touching story. I don't want to go into all the details of the story because it's more personal for her, but just to hear her talk about it, but to see her being dedicated to her job and to help other people while she's struggling with dealing with her mother upstairs and not sure she's going to make it or not. I mean, that's a testament to some of these people in the hospital that go above and beyond their jobs to make sure that us as patients want to make it through and want to, and get the drive to get better. Right. There's a lot to be said for that, and how strong that the doctors and nurses are. And I think I told Devoya about when I first got to the hospital, they put one of those, it was a big, almost looked like a fighter pilot's air mask on my face. And I had to wear it for 4 hours without any water, anything, anything. And it dries you out. And I remember this nurse coming to me and I asked her, I go, can I get some water? And she said, I can't do that for you. I can't, you have to, I'll talk to the doctor, but you need to have this go until your oxygen levels go up. I said, okay, that's fine. And she showed up with a cup of ice and fed me ice. And she heard me. I mean, it was probably the best piece of ice I ever had in my life. And she she goes, it's just like eating prime rib, isn't it? And I laughed and chuckled. And it was a good moment because at that point, she found something to relate to a patient. And it made me feel more comfortable. It dropped everything of like my scaredness of being in an emergency room, of what's going on. Just that small little, the token of giving me a piece of ice and feeding it to me. And that little comment broke, no pun intended, broke the ice to make me feel better and put me at ease, which I think set the tone for the rest of the evening to where I wasn't so fearful that I wasn't gonna make it. And it also set the tone for the rest of my stay there, that, there are nurses that go out of their way. And obviously there are other nurses where, all they wanted to do is get in and out. And I get that too, I'm sure, like all of us, we have families, right. And they're away from their family, working in an environment that's not conducive to having a healthy family, and they're putting themselves in jeopardy every shift they work. And I get that too. So I couldn't be mad at them. They're just doing their job. But again, then there are some amazing nurses that would come in the morning all full of energy, and that'd give you the energy to, okay, today's going to be a great day. And those are the ones, I mean, obviously all of them are good, but those are the ones who really made the healing process much better and helped me get to where I am today. And I still have a long battle, I'm still attached to oxygen. I can take it off for a couple hours a day, but the mental battle is still there in terms of, how long am I going to have to do this? When am I going to go back to work? So then you set goals for yourself, and that's important. So my goal is to be back at work by April 1st. I'm going to do whatever I can to make that happen, because for me, if you don't set goals, you're just going to sit there and wallow in your own pain. And then you become a martyr to yourself. And that's the last thing you need. You need yourself to be as strong as possible, because not only for yourself, but I do it for my parents, because of all the hard work they put in to make sure that every day I have what I need. I do it for my friends that call and check up on me. I do it for my coworkers, but most importantly, I do it for myself. I do it because for me to be able to do the things I want to do, I have to get better. And no matter what the struggle is every day, I try and find a way to overcome it and not go to sleep feeling hurt. The goal is, when I go to sleep, you just remember tomorrow is a new day. And, you don't know what it's going to bring. I might be completely healthy, or it might be another day of struggle. Like these past few days, it's been days of struggle. But I try and make it a point to stay as positive as I can, do the things that'll make me happy, you know? And that's, I mean, honestly, that's all I can do, and keep up with all the information I can. And what can I do to help other people? You know, I want to give blood. So that's what I've been working on. For me personally, I have to give the antibodies back that I took from someone else. So that way they can help the next patient down the road. That should be part of my job in the healing process, I think. You know, it's just as important for me to have it as it is for someone else to. And hopefully all the information and data that they've been getting, either collected from me or from other patients, is helping them recover faster and recover better, because that's important. Yes, Devoya.
So I'm going to open it up shortly for Q&A. But before we get there, would you mind sharing with folks what the physical, you also mentioned some physical changes in your skin, which I hadn't thought prior to this, and how even that feels different. And then once you've answered that, I would, if you don't mind, I would love to open it up for Q&A for folks.
Absolutely. So I was on 3 different medications in the hospital: the antibodies, the steroid, and pills, on top of the sliding scale diabetic insulin that they're giving me. When I got there, my feet started swelling, which happens with neuropathy as well as with diabetes. And as I was in the hospital, it got worse, and my legs became, very swollen. And I was scared. I talked to the nurses about it, and they said, it's okay. It's just because, you know, you can't really do much. You're laying down. So I tried to do as much exercise as I could. Then when I got out of the hospital, it's going down. I was able to walk a little bit more, able to walk, you know, whether it be 10 feet, that was still farther, 8 feet farther than what I was used to, but it was getting the blood circulating in the legs. So as the swelling went down, I also noticed that my skin was extremely dry in my lower extremities and was cracking, you know, the feet all the way up through the calves. And a lot of that has to do with the combination of having diabetes and having COVID. And it kind of freaked me out a little bit, because I bought the Mr. Bond's diabetic cream. I'm like, okay, this has worked before. So we got that, and it wasn't helping. I tried putting coconut oil on my legs to help it, but they were still cracking. They were still, you know, I wouldn't say I was in pain, but it was definitely uncomfortable. So I reached out to Devoya and asked if she had anyone or knew any secrets to be able to help me find a better method or a better way of hydrating my skin. And most of the time, like, it was the legs, but then when it started creeping into my arms and onto my chest a little bit, that's when it started freaking me out. So Devoya was kind enough to introduce me to one of her friends, and she gave me some insight, and, you know, to get some cream, and that really helped out a lot, because, you know, as a diabetic patient, when you start getting neuropathy, you start losing that feeling. And I don't, you know, you don't know if you have a cut on your foot or not. You don't know all these things. I'd look at my legs, I'm like, wow, how did I get that cut? How did this happen? So now that I've gotten better with that, it was relieving to know that, you know, it was just a temporary symptom, as opposed to, like, obviously building the lung strength, or certain people not getting their sense of taste or smell back. I mean, it's one of the minute things, but it's important for people to know that, you know, these are part of the side effects of having COVID and having diabetes. Yeah. Did I help explain that, Devoya?
You explained it perfectly. I'm
all over the board today.
I'm just thinking, you're not all over the place. I'm not feeling that, or I don't think anyone feels that. So I'm going to let you chill for a moment, and we're going to just open it up for questions and comments if anyone would like. And let's just be thoughtful and, ask the kind of questions that are helpful for the work that we do and for folks in the community. And,
like if you have
Manny's super open. He won't mind if it's.
No. Yeah, if you have a personal question.
I'm the one that minds if it's not super informative for all. I don't know if it's necessary for us to do that. So while you're super open, I'm also not. So we're gonna do something in the middle if that's okay with you.
Whatever works best for you.
Okay. And Elena just left, but she took notes as well, and we're gonna come up with some plans for you and skincare and all the different issues that you have. We want to design something, and so we'll talk to you about that later. But now we would love for you all to share some comments or questions that you think would be beneficial to know. Ms. Lysine.
Thank you for sharing, Manuel. So much respect goes to you, and thank you for doing it for your family, for your friends, and even us. When we hear your story, it's very inspirational. My friend also had COVID. She is now, her hair, she lost a lot of her hair. And she used to be able to put it in ponytail, put it in a bun. Now she's wearing a wig. So I don't know if COVID has any of that effect on hair.
On me, no. I don't. I mean, I have thin hair, so I can't really say. But for me, I haven't noticed that. I mean, I'm trying to think. Is there anything outside of the whole dry skin, extremely dry skin? There hasn't been anything aesthetically or appearance-wise that I have noticed. I've noticed that, like, by being stagnant for a couple months, the weight I lost in the hospital, I've put back on, and I need to work on that. But like little by little, that comes with more exercise as you go and building up your endurance. But nothing physical like that. I'm trying to think. I have noticed that the only other thing I get is lots of bloody noses, but I think it's from the oxygen tube that I've been using. But no. And again, from my experience, I think it's just so interesting how it affects people in different ways. What happens to me might not happen to any of you, and you might have something that I never had a fever. I never lost sense of smell or taste. I never had anything. All I had was a small cough and lack of oxygen. That was it. That's why I never took it seriously. Again, you have these people that have the minor symptoms. Oh, it's not that serious. It's not. One more thing. Sorry, Devoya.
You're fine.
When I was in the hospital, there was this one nurse, Heather. I'll always remember her name. And we were sitting there watching the news. And I always would turn on the news to hear what's going on. And they'd always put, the picture of the counties up there. We have 7 ICU beds available in Fresno County. We have all these different things. And I'd look at it and go, that's a lie. There are no beds available. The emergency room is full of patients sitting on chairs because there's not enough beds, all these different things. And, from that point on, again, that's the reason why I did the Instagram, put the tales on Instagram, because if my friends know, at least I might lose some friends, but I also might gain the respect of those and hopefully change their mind about going out, change their mind about being more safe when they do go out, and not just going out because they want to have a drink or going out because, they want to see friends. That's called a sacrifice you have to do for all of us to be able to improve our situation. We all have to sacrifice, and we all have to work together to make it happen. And you have all these people fighting, and I'm really glad I never went to Sprouts or Trader Joe's when they had the non-mask wearers outside of there, because I would walk in there with an oxygen tank. What are they going to tell me? How are they going to change my mind? I would be there to change their mind. And that's the most important thing. So one of the first things I did was I wrote every news station to tell them. And in college, I was an MCJ major, mass communication and journalism. So part of what I studied was obviously news and media. So I made it a point to say, as a member of the public, what you're saying isn't true. And it should be your job as reporters to speak the truth. When you go to a third world country and there's a bomb or there's an earthquake, they're not candy coating the news and not showing you anything. They're showing you graphic pictures of death. They're showing you all these things. It should be the news's job to go into the hospital, show the faces of these people, the suffering that's going on, to scare the crap out of the people that don't have it or think that it's not a serious thing. That should be part of what we teach people as reporters, as people in the media, and not have these arguments over, just dumb things. And part of me believes that if we were doing that, people would take this more seriously. Sorry, that's it.
Now speak your truth, Manny.
That's an important thing that I've honestly, I'm very adamant about, and I've lost friends over it.
That's unfortunate, but probably a necessity. I think.
Well, I think so too. And again, I don't think I would be this way if I wouldn't have it. If I had it, if I didn't go to the hospital, if I didn't have this, I'd probably be like my friends, But I got it. Now I know, and I got it from doing everything as right and as well as I could, which also should tell you that it doesn't matter what you do, it's going to affect everyone, and you could just walk outside and get your mail and get it. You never know. So just, you can only control what you can do for yourself. And I know that sounds selfish, but you have to think that way, because if you don't, then you're letting your guard down and you could get it.
Yes. Does anyone else have a question or comments they would like?
I'll have I don't know if I have any questions, but a couple comments. Number one, Manny, it's since I started following you on Instagram and seeing the timeline of you in the hospital up until now, it's very good to see you coming back, returning to the old Manny. You look like yourself again, except I'm not used to you in glasses, but you may say the same about me. So that's good. And I hope, I hope, you're just, I'm sure I can hear it in your voice, but I know you're feeling positive about the future. And so it's very nice to see such a dramatic change. I don't know how you feel today, but I can just tell you look, pretty much how I'm used to seeing you. And you sure didn't a couple months ago or a month ago, and then that was tough to see. But now seeing you, it's great. And with what you're doing, being here today, there's not a huge group of us, but we all know people and we're all talking to people, and I'm sure you're aware that you're reaching a lot of people by doing this. For me, you've been a little bit of a sacrificial lamb, because in where I work and the culture that I work in, it's not a great culture. I'm among a lot of the people that are part of the problem with taking this seriously. And although I've taken it seriously from the beginning, because I've trusted scientists and doctor friends, and I've known a lot of people that I trust. It's been challenging for me to express the seriousness that I feel among my work community, and to get them to take it seriously. But one of the things that really helps is when you can say, someone that's been through something, and and you're the closest person to me that's had it as seriously. It's been a friend of a friend, but it's when it's the further they are removed, the less convincing you are in trying to convey the seriousness of it.
Yeah.
And frankly, up until the holidays, I didn't know a single person that had it. That had it. I'd heard of people, but so it's your Instagram posts, doing this, communicating what you're going through, it's going right through me and to someone else. And now I can really feel like I speak with authority, because I know, I could say one of my best friends, and instead of, well, I heard about this guy, I heard about this woman. So you're doing a lot. I'm sure you're having a huge effect.
And that's part of the problem, though. It's like you said, I knew no one who had gone to the hospital before I went to the hospital. I didn't even know anyone who had contracted it, to be honest with you, in my close knit group of friends or any of their friends. So, if I can just, like I said, if I can help one person, then I've done what I'm trying to set out to do. At least give them a little insight. And, for me personally, it has to be done. It's the only way that makes me feel good about myself. And in this stage of my life right now, is to be able to at least share my experience. And I wrote down everything. Eventually I was telling Devoya, I'm working on either an essay or just of my experience or a short book, because I'm sure that I'm one of hundreds of thousands of people. But you know what? I guarantee you, a lot of us are thinking the same thing. I wonder if other people have had this experience. And if you can relate to other people, it also helps them in recovery. It helps them to kind of, okay, I'm not alone in this. I'm not fighting this battle. I'm not the only one that has this part of the symptoms, and it really, I think that's one of the things that eases me the most is when I read about other people that have the same symptoms that I have had or I'm struggling with still. It really puts me at ease to know, okay, we're doing this together. I use we collectively because it is a we. It is a we thing. I'm doing it. There's someone in the hospital who's doing it right now. So, we kind of have to look at it as one giant family. And the more information each one of us shares or receives, it can only help us out. I personally think. So it's my job to make sure that I do my part in that.
Well, I think it's all our job.
For sure.
I think it's all of us. And I think you're helping contribute to that today.
No, that's a very true point, Devoya. And, like I said, it's, I don't, not even my worst enemy would I want them to suffer what I went through. It's not worth it. And if I can stop that from happening or hopefully give them a second thought before they walk out of the house without a mask or without anything, then I've done my job. I've made them think twice and actually put that thought in their brain. And that to me is important.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it because you're helping me be safer around my community that maybe will listen a little more.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, for sure. And I bet some people in your shoes may, I'm sure it's not easy for others to speak out. Other people that have had it or are going through it, and they may carry shame, and if they weren't wearing their mask or something, whatever people go through, and so it's and not that they should feel that way, but I'm just saying, people go through all kinds of emotional things. But it's really awesome that you're doing this, and you could just be alone, just talking to nobody. So
yeah,
I'll let you go.
Well, I think that you used a term there, Josh, and the word shame, because I will share with you all just a little tiny thing that I hadn't planned on sharing, but I think it's important. The three of us, we're connected through music. We know each other through nightlife. We're all older now, so not as much nightlife, but that's okay. And so I was very strategic in who I shared this information with. Yes, I have my team of beautiful people here that are the choir. We're the choir. That's why I chose this group. But there's another group that I chose, and that's the group that we've grown together with, and that is our nightlife companions that are friends. And it never occurred to me that I was making them feel uncomfortable with even the invitation. Like that it never clicked until I would get little messages saying, I could just tell it was, I'm not ready for this because I'm still living my life, Devoya. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but this isn't uncomfortable. I'm sorry. I was just saying,
go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, this is an uncomfortable virus.
That I think it just didn't. I guess because I have been sheltering in at home for a year, I forgot that there really still is that culture still exists. And a lot of our associates and friends or whatnot still work in that environment, but also still play in that environment. So me giving them a flyer that says, we're going to talk to someone that we all love about what he's going through. And until Josh just used the word shame, I didn't recognize what the hesitation was. Mm-hmm. Because I know you all work at night. You have the time. It's in the middle of the day. I know you have the time, but it might be the shame of knowing I'm not doing all I can to be, to protect myself and others. And maybe I don't want to witness someone that I care about being in this situation. I don't know if that's it, but as soon as he used that word, it just clicked like, oh, maybe that has something to do with it. But we're recording this. And so even if they're not here, you know me, I'm sharing any old kind of way we can. I think it's important that people recognize, yes, we are all in this.
I think too, the fact that might be that they might not be ready to hear it.
Yeah.
They might not be ready to.
You weren't ready to receive this either, though, Manny.
No,
okay.
I was far from
it. So it's not about comfortability any longer. Yeah. I personally don't think. At this point, I mean, it's our anniversary, y'all. All of these lovely faces you see here, we left each other. The last project we did was International Women's Day in March. I still have stuff on my desk that I ordered to give out to people all the month of March. It's all sitting there because we fled. We was like, peace, we out. We're going to figure this out. And we've not been back. Wow. And I continue to forget not everybody did that. And so maybe you're not ready to receive this. But I can't, we don't want to stay in the house for another year. Yeah. We need to get on top of this like today. And I think it starts with a candid conversation with someone who's contracted it, who is actively letting others know how difficult this has been, but also how helpful you are being towards others by even the notion of sharing this. It's to be in this vulnerable space to begin with, and then have the courage to say, okay, Devoya, yeah, you could have easily, I mean, I have the audacity to ask you and you have the audacity to say, yes, we got to do it. You know what I mean?
Right. But again,
so I commend you.
It's to me, it's important. It's important, you know, whenever you're faced with something where your life is in jeopardy, it changes your perspective on things. It really changes, you know, like I had said when I was speaking earlier, it changes the ranks of things in your life and what means the most to you. To me, what means the most are my family and friends, and to let people know that this is something that we all have to address. We can't hide from it.
Nope.
We can all think that we can, and we can all say, oh, I've already got this. But now what's going on? We have all these variants. We have all these things where even if you take a vaccine, you're not even sure if that vaccine is going to work for you, you know, if you're not careful. And it's, you know, it's scary. I remember my job is off the grid up in the mountains. So I remember going to work, every other Monday, I'd go to Costco. I'd load up. My dad would come in. You have so much stuff in your pantry. It's flour, it's things, because I know how to cook for myself. So if I'm up there and God forbid something would happen, I'm prepared to self-sustain for at least a month, because I'm not going to jeopardize myself. That's the last thing I want. The last thing I want is to get sick. That was my mentality. The last thing I want is to be a burden on someone else. And again, it didn't matter. But I think that your true friends are the ones that come out and are honest with you, and they're the ones that support you, and they're the ones that, just ask how you're doing. Sometimes that's all it takes. How are you? And, that brightens up your day. And there's so many of those. I just remember sitting, I think it was the second week I was home, writing thank you notes just to all my friends, because of just what some of them might have brought me something to the hospital. Others might have just, there's a guy who's my neighbor 10 years ago. And he works in the healthcare industry, and he would, every morning, he would send me just say, hey man, be strong, do this. And sometimes when you're on Instagram, you can leave the voice. So sometimes he'd leave me the voice message of, Manny, you got this, man. You're doing so good. And, it's just, I can't wait till I get this off and I can go have a cup of coffee with him and just thank him personally, because it's stuff like that really, like, number one, it becomes emotional. And number two, it really helps, just by, if you, saying something to someone, you have no idea how much that can affect their mentality and their day.
Right.
And, just a hello, that's all it takes sometimes. And, especially those who aren't able to talk to other people, that small just token is so appreciative. So I wanted to make sure that they all understood how much it meant to me, how much that really did help. Because when you're by yourself, that's all you got. You have other people thinking about you, but in your mind, you're by yourself and on your own. And so you have to find the things that help you become stronger and become motivated to get the heck out of there and get the heck out of your situation and do what you normally do. Get back to as normal as it can be.
Thank you for saying that.
Oh, of course.
Before we close out for this afternoon, did anyone else have any comments or questions today? Ms. Nifa.
Wanted to give you an applause for your strength and for informing us of your experience, because
Let's all do that. I think we all should do that right now.
That is very brave and amazing that you can use your experience and teach us if it happens for us, or if it happens for someone, that we have to be aware how we may react to someone who, like Devoya was saying, maybe we feel uncomfortable, maybe we don't want to deal with that, maybe we want to be in denial or pretend that it's not there. So thank you so much for giving us that insight. And I was just wondering, what would be your advice when you're going through those storms of anger or sadness or depression? How do you deal with those storms? How would you advise someone to give them hope, or say, this also will pass? But what do you do in that transition when you're going through that, to take care of yourself or to keep going?
Wow, that's a great question. I think, well, for me personally, I just, like I said, I let them happen. If I'm going to have a fit of anger, I just got to let it happen, because if I don't, I'm just going to get angrier the next time. If I'm sad and I'm crying because I feel alone, or I feel in a bad mood because I've been trapped inside, and I go experience, last week I went to go get my COVID test, And on the way home, I started crying because I was outside and you see little kids playing, you see all these things. But the thing is not to stop crying, just let it out. Again, if it's a form of release, and whatever emotion it is, it's a form of release that you have to. And part of my experience is some of the things I've gone through in the past 3 years. So that helped. I don't think if I would have gone through all those things, I wouldn't be as strong as I have been to deal with this today. So for me, it's a combination of going back through life experiences that you've had, especially bad ones, because that's how you grow, and just letting loose. And from those experiences, I learned kind of how to cope better with my situation this time. And to me, that's important. Just let it happen. I mean, if any piece of advice would just be let it happen, and who cares what people think, because you're making yourself feel better. And that's what has to happen.
And I'm just going to piggyback on that, Manny. I see kids running in the street. I'll be crying all the time. That's just called being grown, man. Commercials make me cry. Happy stuff makes me cry. Just own it. That's just the new version of adulthood. Is I have an emotion about everything. Yeah. You too, Lacey? Sometimes I'm like, enough already. It's a commercial, Devoya. They gonna get those clothes clean. Be okay with it. Ugh. You had a question, Lacey?
I will tell you this one thing, though, that I have become with this.
And then you froze. Oh.
I will say one thing.
It did freeze for a moment.
And you can vouch for this, Devoya, since we've talked a few times, is I feel like I was already pretty blunt, and I have no filter.
Is this true?
But I think that I've become more like blunt because of it, in terms of like, well, and it's, for me, it's a good thing, because I'm not candy. I'm going to hurt someone's feelings. Well, who cares? Right now, that's not the important thing. The important thing is to express how you really feel. And, sometimes it gets me in trouble. Sometimes it doesn't. But again, it's like, I got it out there and it's in the universe, and it's like, okay, whether you take it as you will. I don't care. I'm not going to think any differently of you. And hopefully you understand that's just how I am. It's like, okay, that's Manny. But again,
I've said that a few times.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I have.
I'm pretty sure over the years you have. And Josh just gives me a dirty look sometimes, or like a confused
look. Or I would
look.
tell Josh on you. You know what he
said? Yeah. Right?
Lexing, you had a comment?
Yeah, sorry, Manny. I just have so many questions. But
please.
Okay, so in December, you got tested. I just wanted to know the time frame of when you got it, how long were you in the hospital, and recovery time. And I know that you're still trying to fight through this.
Okay, so I got tested on December 19th. That was my first test outside of work. I already had it then. And then the following day, the 20th, I went to the hospital. I stayed there until January 2nd, and then I came home. And since I've been home, I'm still, obviously I'm still recovering. I have improved, I guess. I mean, I listen to my dad because he sees it more than me. For me, I don't see any growth. It's like when you're a kid and you start growing, you can't really tell, oh, wow, I'm already 5 feet. I can't tell, I get more frustrated with myself. It's like, why can't I make it to the bedroom without being out of breath? To me, it's like I put the burden on myself of making it my fault. I don't know, so it's been yesterday was my 2-month anniversary of coming home from the hospital. And again, my goal is April 1st. So I'm hoping 3 months should be somewhat a full recovery if done properly. I don't know. I don't know if it will be, but that's what I'm shooting for. And
we ask why you continue to take the COVID test then. You did mention you just recently took another one. I wasn't aware that you need to continue to take them after you've
Peace of mind.
Oh.
Because, I think with having constant oxygen going in, my dad can vouch for this. I would call, I told him, don't come over. I think I've got a fever or I have a cough. Granted, I can't, there's minimal amount of exposure for me, but there's still a chance, whether I'm getting outside food or stuff like that. So I just wanted to be careful. And I started feeling run down. My immune system's already low. So anything can compromise it. So for me, it's a matter of, I think it was more of a peace of mind.
Okay.
Okay. It's like, all right, I can do that. And, forcing my parents to get 2 tests when I was in the hospital because, you don't know that first one. Then you come and you clean my house after I was sick. It's like, you got to take another one, please. Take 2 just to be safe. And I mean, to me, that was another adamant thing that I was strong about. And I'll still continue to take them just because it gives me a sense of peace of mind.
Right.
And that's something that I suffer from right now. Sometimes when you have the doubt of, am I getting better or not? Peace of mind is one of the first things to go. So if I can eliminate some of the things that don't give me that, then I'll do my best to do that, because then it takes away the anxiety and a lot of the pain of worrying about things.
Well, and having said that, I want to invite you, in June is Mental Health Awareness Month for men. We don't necessarily think about, unfortunately, and it's not just me saying this, statistics show that we don't necessarily spend as much time educating men about mental health awareness as we do women. And so as an organization in June, we have some programming that we're putting together. And so I would love to invite you to be a part of that as well. And I also just want to thank you. And if we all could just thank you for being so candid today. This is such good information. And we're so glad that you're here with us, Manny. I did call Josh. I was worried about you. I was not on social media in the way that I used to be because I have to do it for work so much that after work, it's not something I enjoy like as recreation. And so I was just hearing it from friends and needed to find out. And didn't have I thought I didn't have your number any longer. And so I'm glad that we still have these communities of friends that still check on one another and are concerned, and so happy that you're here with us, and that you feel better. And he is right, you do look so much better just from the last 2 weeks that I saw you. So I'm going to be rooting for April 1st for you as well. And in order for us to do this work, we ask that you fill out this short survey of how today's workshop went. I was not able to source that survey before this workshop, so I have all of your emails, and I'm going to spam you that survey link. And I would hope that you would send it back so we can continue to do this work for you all. And just thank you so much for being here today.
And I would just want to let, if anyone else, like if in the future you have questions, Devoya has my email. Don't hesitate to ask her for it, and I will definitely respond back and, give you my honest, candid opinions and advice on, or how I've gone through it. And, hopefully it gives you a little insight and, and whatnot, just to, again, we don't know what the future holds. So if I can help in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you so much, Manny. And thank you for inviting Tony with us this evening.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Next April is a big birthday for me. So maybe next April, we can all go back to the Bay and have a good time together.
So you'll be
the most fun with you, Tony.
You'll be 30 years old, right?
You understand my life so well. Yes, I will. We're going to be a big 30.
I can see it in your face. I can see it in your eyes.
Thank you so much. I see where Manny gets it from.
I had many years of practice.
Thank you.
So, with any further ado, I just want you all to have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.